Today on Broadscast, she's unintentionally celibate.
No, not me.
He's a veteran sports agent and founder of a life-changing nonprofit for kids. Today, they are both here with us.
Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Today's Broadscast is brought to you by Audible.com. Kim,
What?
you still have those audiobooks up there?
I do have an audiobook, and that was a pain in the tush to record, so someone better benefit from
You know
it.
your microphone moves, right?
I know.
Kim's literally in this like contorted position to speak into the mic when you could just move the mic.
Well, I have a wedgie, and so I'm trying to move it out of the way, and you're yelling at me about a microphone. And so, hi, welcome.
Hi, back to Audible.com. So, so we have two guests from the summer who have books coming on out very soon. I'm Judging You. Remember Lovey?
I do.
That book, you can actually go to...
I thought you were literally saying that you were judging me, and I was getting very defensive.
That's actually a given. But I'm Judging You by Lovey Ajayi. She is very, very popular, as you know. And her book is coming out, and you can pre-order. Go to audibletrial.com/broadscast. You can pre-order the audiobook and get a free month. And by the way, that audiobook is totally free because you got it through us. The other one too is
a lot.
Last week.
It's a lot of things to remember.
Remember Jenny was on talking about Pivot?
Pivot.
The Only Move That Matters is your next one. She also has it on Audible.
So when you forget all these things, just go to broadcast.com and go to our special offers page.
Broadcast.com
and it's all there.
/special offers. Totally. But you can also get Kim's book. So awesome.
Wah, wah.
So get this. Today,
What?
you know how many episodes we've done so far?
No.
This is
Less than 100 because I know our 100th episode is coming up in September. So we
buzzkill. No, this is our 91st episode.
Oh.
So yeah, in September we'll have our 100th episode. Isn't that crazy? Exciting?
over the course of 12 years. Yeah, it's been fantastic. We really knocked this out of the park.
Well, we've done like 75% of them over the past year and a half. So,
all right.
I guess that would be 75 if it was 75%.
It's too early for math, Miss McDougall.
Anyway, today's show is going to be super duper awesome because your football season's starting.
Not my football season, but the football season that I happen to be a fan of. Yes.
The fact that you're a fan, but you also are like the fantasy football, which is like Dungeons and Dragons for football. No, isn't it?
Yeah, keep going.
You're like a 2-time winner.
I'm a 2-time winner, and I have nothing to show for it
football.
except money in my bank account.
How do you not have a line of men outside your door? Probably because you're breaking HOA codes all the time and they can't get through with all that. No, but seriously, fantasy football 2-time winner.
Nobody likes a woman that wins, apparently. So me being able to gloat that I'm a winner makes men feel like they're losers. So maybe that is why. My league is coming for me. They sent out an email that the draft is coming and they're coming to take me down because I am back-to-back fantasy football league winner. And so they either said it's a dynasty, the Goldman dynasty, or just luck.
You're like the Michael Phelps of fantasy football.
Wow.
No, he's just such a winner.
Well, thankfully I'm not the Ryan Lochte because then I don't have a joke
calls
there.
Him the Ryan Poopty Pants. I'm not
okay.
really
So
sure.
let's just segue into Ryan Lochte. So I really was thinking the other day how hot he was.
Really?
I do. I think he's really hot. And then he did some stupid.
Well, he's hot because he's full of crap.
Whatever. I thought
hot crap.
Yeah. So
did you? I asked this on the Facebook page because I have to say when I heard that those 4 Olympic athletes, you know, young, strong men, strapping, if you will, were just not abducted, but mugged. It didn't seem like really.
Okay.
I mean, unless you guys have been. Like
when we talked about it on the show, we were both like, wow, could you believe that happened? So
yeah, but it felt weird. It just felt weird. I should have said I thought he was full of crap, but that would have seemed.
The only part that sounded weird to me is that he had a gun to his temple or whatever the heck he said. Like, I was like, that's a little bizarre, but whatever. You don't know. I mean, they were talking about lots of crime happening in Rio, and that they were even warning the Olympians to stay in the Olympic Village because there was a lot of crime happening, and there was somebody that was abducted or two. Like, right, there was like stuff happening, so it didn't seem so far fetched.
Yeah.
But the news is that there's all these double standards between him, Ryan Lochte, for making up this story or exaggerating the story, because I'm not exactly sure what happened. And then comparing it to Gabby Douglas, who... I'm hearing voices in my head. Gabby Douglas, who has been chastised for not putting her hand over her heart during the national anthem when she took the gold.
Right.
And so the double standards, because the IOC was saying that Ryan Lochte, just give those guys a break. They're just kids. They were just kids having fun.
No.
And yeah. That was
so. Can we just fill people in? So they went out to a party. They left the party at 6 a.m., which no good happens when you hear that someone's leaving a party at 6 a.m. And then they were at the gas station and they kicked in a door and they were just acting like buffoons. And then a security guard literally did actually pull a gun because he wanted them to pay for the damages, but they went back. And the thing is, does nobody realize, especially as Olympians in the Olympic location, that there are cameras everywhere? You can't just decide, hey, we were out in public and we're going to make up a story.
Right.
When public, there are cameras.
Right.
That will say, no, that story's not correct.
Well, when
He's
you're
not the
hammered at
brightest.
6 o'clock in the morning, you're probably not thinking of other security cameras around. But I'm thinking
that's when you should be thinking about.
Yeah,
the
but on the
security
news
cameras.
this morning, they were talking about double standards, and everybody's all up in arms
Yes.
because Gabby Douglas has been, it's such a travesty of what she did.
Oh my God!
Versus the Olympic Committee talking about Ryan Lochte, saying that those kids are just having fun. Well, he's a 32-year-old man, and so they're comparing now that. He's not getting as much slack. But I'm sitting here thinking, who's not giving him slack? Like, I'm not sitting here and blowing it off.
Right.
So where's the double standard coming from, really, honestly?
Yeah.
Just the guy in the IOC?
But let me ask you this. When you sing the national, or you hear the national anthem at sports events?
I do not. I put my hand over my heart.
But have you always...
No, I actually asked my son this morning, and he said when he watches NBA games that they all just stand at attention.
Right.
Like, I didn't find that to be offensive. I found her to be disengaged, and like whenever they panned to her, she was the one that was separated from her teammates. That she didn't look. She looked pissed when I was watching her. That's what I noticed. But when she was up on the podium, I thought she was just in the moment, like appreciating the moment. And I noticed that she didn't have her hand over her, but I didn't think anything of it.
But you make such a good point with the male-female thing, because she works her butt off more than any of us have worked on anything in our entire lives. She has given her life to this sport. She goes to the Olympics multiple times. She gives her life, and she gets up there and she wins this. And all we care about is how she's presenting, how she's processing where she is.
Well, just because you're an Olympian doesn't mean that you're a stellar person. You're just an athlete who
but you're also not an on-camera person. You're not somebody who should always be thinking about.
But we didn't send Olympic citizens. We just sent people to run their marathons and swim their laps and flip their flips.
We're agreeing. We're passionately agreeing.
But all these stuff about double standards, I don't really know what the double standard is, because the only person that I saw that was kind of forgiving what Ryan Lochte did is some dude on the Olympic Committee. Nobody else. So I don't know who's creating these so-called double standards, is what I'm saying. People are upset about Gabby.
Media.
Okay, great.
The media.
People are upset about Ryan. I don't even know that the media is upset. I think the media is seeing the ignorance behind what he did. So when they're inciting all this other stuff about double standards and male versus female, white versus black, but I don't really know who outside of a couple of people that are creating those headlines really believe that. I think people are equally pissed about Ryan Lochte and what he did. And people are in uproar about what Gabby Douglas did, regardless of how legitimate it is.
But
I think
stupid.
So I don't really know what the double standards are, honestly. What are they in this particular situation? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think that as we discuss ad nauseum, people are just want to be offended. So it's like, oh, what can I take from this moment to be offended? It's Anyway, moving on. So I saw something that was trending on. No, this is good. I saw something that was trending on Facebook. So you were at my house a couple of weeks ago, and there's a preview promos running for that new show. I forget what it's called. This Is Us, right? On NBC. And you were with my kids, and I wasn't here. And my kids told you, oh, my mom wants to see that. And you were commenting that you wanted to see that because you and I like these shows.
That we need 12 boxes of Kleenex to get through the first 5 minutes.
We should actually have this show sponsored by Kleenex. But so
subliminal messaging,
right? Remember, not so subliminal though. So remember back when Parenthood was on? and like we would talk and we would cry and we would love it.
Is Parenthood coming back?
The creator of it says that there's possibly in the future a like reunion.
Really? Just like one reunion show?
I don't
or
know.
Like a whole...
But they were asking him about it because, you know, Gilmore Girls came out back to Netflix.
Right.
And they were talking about that. I guess Lauren Graham is like ready to do it, to come back to Parenthood because the cast loved it too, you know.
Right.
And so he says that, you know, not to count it out quite yet because it's possible. I have a little quote. It would start. The show would start at the moment when I feel like I have a story to tell. But the whole thing about Parenthood is the kids get a little older and their lives change. Then there's more story to tell. I feel like that will happen at some point. And then it will be a question of logistically, can we get the actors back together at the same time? And then we have to find an outlet that wants to air it. Oh my God.
I don't know that I could handle both shows at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of emotion.
Well, the chance that any show lasts as long as Parenthood did is very...
I love that show.
But can you imagine? I feel like somebody's saying like...
Do it. Do it.
Is it weird that I kind of consider the Bravermans my family over the Morgans? I don't know. It's weird.
And scene. Yeah, I don't know.
So in a couple minutes, we're going to talk to Olive Persimmon about her book.
She took my stage name.
Was that your stage name?
Yeah.
Unintentionally Celibate. She took your book title as well.
She took my life.
And she
can have that, actually.
And she's working on her second book, The Quest for Coitus. I mean, the fact when I discovered this person through someone else had sent me her.
Think it was me?
No, I just was like, she must be on. And then we'll go from
that to balls.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And sports.
Kenny Zuckerman's an agent, a big time sports agent, and huge in the NFL. And he's going to kind of like I grew up in New England, so you have to be a fan of New England sports. It's just, it's like, that's your first. My first words were Yankees suck. I'm just kidding. It really weren't. But that's just how.
Yankees really suck. Yeah.
What's that?
Nothing.
But I think that growing up in Chicago, it's pretty strong sports.
It's a very strong sports community town. I think like the whole Midwest, East Coast more than the West Coast.
Yeah.
Being a transplant, I don't really find that LA folks are as sports I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but as someone coming from Chicago who it's sports everywhere, I came here and I couldn't find a way to immerse myself into it because we're so spread out. And we have so many, I don't know, we have so many transplants here that when you come here, you just still get to own your own team from whatever state you came from. But I was growing up in Chicago. We didn't have a lot of sports in my house, but in my town we did.
Right. I mean, it's
Bears,
a culture.
Cubs,
it's like part of everywhere
Bulls,
you go.
Blackhawks.
Like,
I'm sorry. I'm just keep going.
But like in Massachusetts, parties, like birthday parties, we get invited to our kids, our kids get invited to all these birthday parties. And sometimes parents will get offended if the party is on, like, say, a Sunday morning because here because they want to go to church. It wasn't that way back there. It was like, well, you can miss church, but you can't miss the Pats game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you have that when the Red Sox are playing or whatever it is?
Well, that's how I am now that I'm into football. Everything is centered around what game is happening on Sunday. And if I can sign into my Wi-Fi and watch it wherever I am. So it's sort of how.
So if I have Wi-Fi and alcohol, you'll be at my house watching football?
Yes.
And now that I have live TV again.
Yeah, totally.
Good.
But that's how it is now. Like my son even knows that. Like what games are happening. Like I had to leave my son at a basketball tournament once so I could go do my fantasy football draft.
Really?
Yeah, I missed his whole tournament.
The funny thing is you wouldn't miss it for anything else. You're like, I wouldn't miss it for
I
the
missed
world,
the LA Rams
fantasy.
preseason. I missed the LA Rams preseason opening game so I could sit in a hot, sweaty gym and watch my kid lose his tournament. He played fantastic, but I sat there knowing that the history was happening in Los Angeles, and I committed to my son's basketball game.
Well, you're a great mother,
I am.
except for when it comes to fantasy football, and then not so much. So when does that all start? Like, explain this to the rest of us that don't play fantasy football. So you just go to a draft and people pick just like they would in the NFL. You just pick players and then you put them all together.
Yeah, we all pick numbers to determine who gets to what the picking order is. The last year's loser, which I believe is Denise's brother. I think he was the last year's loser, so he gets the first pick.
Okay.
And then we all draw numbers, and then you pick according to what number you are. And then you have to, like, our league has 12 players in it. So the first player goes all the way down to 12, and then you go back up the chain again. So number 1 has to wait 24 or 5 times before you can pick again. And then it's just you pick whoever you think is going to give you the most points on your team. And then hopefully that player is still available by the time it gets to you. And you have to strategize between one.
So are you that good at strategy? Or
no, it's all luck. I mean, it's kind of like picking a horse, right? You pick it based on their name,
right?
Usually, sort of
so
like
you're seriously picking them based on their name.
Well, I do a little bit of research, but it's all based on
Would you pick Tom Brady?
No.
Why?
Because
he's going to be out for 4 games. There's that.
Right, he is going to be out. Well, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't necessarily. I could pick Tom Brady, but I might not get to him because someone else might pick him first. So sometimes it's really just the sort of like our politics. It's like the lesser of two evils or the best of what's left kind of a thing. So sometimes you just have to just wait and see what's left.
Right.
So I can have my wish list, but depending on where I am in the pecking order, I may not get who I want. But I do a little bit of research. I see who's projected to be great, but they could be injured in the first game.
Right. And you just never know. And it's so fascinating to me because it kind of opens up that you have to watch every game if you're watching your different. I don't mean every game of the season. I mean every team of every right. Because you're following all these different players from different teams.
Right, which is what has helped me become a fan. Actually, is because I get to watch a lot of different teams as opposed to just being a fan of the Bears, and then I'd be just in the fetal position for most of the season. So I get to now watch,
unless it were like 1986 or something. Is that the
Super
last
Bowl
time?
Shop? Yeah, is that it?
Is that the last time they won? I don't know. Anyway, I feel bad because I'm attacking you about, not attacking you, but like giving you a hard time about this. And then we're going to talk unintentionally celibate. I'm going to give you a hard time about that too. So
this is turning into a crap on Kim show.
It is not. But I will say that given the fact that you are, doing this fantasy football, and you're among how many men are you among? Like,
there's 9 men in our league, 3 women. And And
are any of those men single? Because this is like a special feature that we always mention that Kim's single in every episode. So
the you part of we always make sure.
No, I think last week it was actually you. So all right, moving on
to unintentionally celibate. Nice segue.
Speaking of single
and celibacy,
not necessarily by choice. So Olive is the author of Unintentionally Celibate, and the future are working on now
Coitus,
the quest for coitus,
yeah,
which is the best. Every time I hear the word coitus, I think of the guy Sheldon from
Big Bang Theory.
Yes, because he says it in such a funny way. But Olive Persimmon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Hi, Olive.
Hi.
So first of all, we have to like that name. Kim says that's her stage. You took her stage name. Like that.
Olive, I know it makes you hungry, right? Olive Persimmon.
It's so
have like
funny.
A nice fat cocktail.
The fact that we have to acknowledge that it's such a creative name, and I assume not created by your mother.
No, definitely not. My mother thinks it's kind of a silly name. And actually, someone told me recently, they said, why would you choose that name? You're never going to have sex using that name. If that's your goal, you made a mistake.
Do you use that name in public or just
what are
for
you
your...
supposed to use, Bambi?
I know, right? I was like, well, what's it like? I was like, oh, I should have used like Veronica, right? Like,
oh, that would be
that's pretty.
Kinda...
I do, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Like,
we're both like, oh yeah, Veronica
works for me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but Veronica's getting laid.
Yeah, you know what? Now that we're having this conversation, I'm like, I messed up. I really messed up.
That's right. Maybe you can, shed the Olive persona for book number 3 and suddenly
just get right to the pit.
Yeah.
The artist formerly known as Olive Persimmon.
Just become a symbol. I don't even know what that symbol would look like, so let's not even.
This could be a dark hole we could fall down right now.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. But so let's go.
I just got that joke right there.
Just hit me.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit. So you're living life, just enjoy working or going to school or doing your thing, and all of a sudden you realize, not only am I unintentionally celibate, I should tell the world. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so actually I was out of school. Thank you for thinking I'm much younger than I am. I appreciate that. A good moisturizer. Yeah, you know how it started, actually? I was on a date, and I choked on a hot dog on this date. This is a true story. It was like a gourmet hot dog bar, of course.
Is that
a gourmet hot dog? Yeah.
That's like the hipster thing. You take like dumb food and you make it gourmet, and you add like truffle oil, and suddenly you charge like $20 for a hot dog, and it's like a gourmet hot dog, right? So I'm on a date with this dude, and I start choking on this hot dog. And his friend walked in at the exact time I start choking. So he sees his friend, and he's like, oh, hey, Brian, like, how are you? Blah, 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 engaging in conversation. So he doesn't realize I'm choking. So I'm freaking out, and I'm like, okay, should I go to the bathroom? This is so embarrassing. I take a sip of my beer. The beer gets stuck, and I realize, like, I'm really...
Wait, how does the beer get stuck on your hot dog?
Because the hot dog's not mushy.
Oh, because the hot dog is literally,
lodged.
blocking my passage. Yeah, it's lodged. So the beer just sits on top of it, and that's when I'm like, oh, shit, I got to do something.
Oh,
so, okay, we're
no
on
cussing,
radio.
Olive.
Can't do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm like, oh, no. Oh,
Golly
no.
gee willikers. Okay, moving on.
Anyway, long story short, I end up Heimliching myself on the date on the bar. So I fall on the bar, I Heimlich myself, and all this hot dog and beer comes out, and I'm embarrassed and mortified. And I go into work the next day, and I'm telling my coworker, she's like, how was your date? And I was like, yeah, well, I choked on a hot dog and had to Heimlich myself on the bar.
And you've been Heimliching yourself ever since.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, well, I've actually had a terrible fear of choking ever since. But she was like, you got to start writing this stuff down. And that's kind of how it started. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm not having coitus, I need to write about it. It was like all this ridiculous stuff just started happening. And it was like too rich not to share with the world.
Right. But, a lot of people at that point would start blogging.
Or masturbating.
You can say that, but you can't say any cuss words. I started doing.
You can allude to anything. You just can't say the actual words.
Oh, okay.
You just can't say the words that our kids would put money in the swear jar, right?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I started doing both of those things you just suggested, and I did start blogging about it, but it just kind of evolved into my first book. And then I was not having coitus for a really long time, and it was almost hilarious that it just wasn't happening. Like, it was just becoming ridiculous.
Because, let's be honest here. We're women, and you're the cutest thing on 2 feet. You could walk into a bar or a classroom or outside of your house.
Classroom?
In college or something. Don't get creepy,
oh, yeah.
you two.
Okay, yeah.
But and just pick one. Chances are you could get some if you really wanted.
Speaking as the married woman, single people don't really do that. Single women don't want to do that.
I'm sorry, I was single once.
You would walk into a college classroom and just be like, you in the back with the purple shirt? Really?
No. But no.
Yeah.
But there are bars and they have alcohol.
And I said exactly that. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, walk into a bar, just spread my legs and be like, okay, I'm ready.
It would work.
Well,
could get you a reality show.
He was like, yeah, that's exactly what you do.
That's how Kim Kardashian got started.
What?
Isn't that how Kim Kardashian got started?
No, her mother sold her sex tape. That's how she got started.
So this is the second time in our conversation where I'm like, I messed up. It was just that easy. I should have just had a reality show about it. And
we need to be building you up here.
Jackie likes to turn the mirror on people and let them see themselves for who they really are.
So, all right. So let me ask you this though: are you really looking for just getting a little bit of action, or this is a bigger picture?
Yeah, part of it was I just wasn't into casual sex. I just didn't. My body wasn't into it. Mentally, I just wasn't into it. I had a lot of Catholic guilt, and I'm not Catholic at all. I don't know where it came from. I just had it. Actually, my mom was like, you're being such a prude.
Catholics are so strong. I grew up Catholic that we could actually give you the guilt even if you don't belong to the religion.
I think that's true. I was behind one once in a grocery line, and it sucked into my system. I don't know.
That's funny. So I think I don't want to speak for Kim, but I think she can totally yeah, I'm going to anyway. I think she can appreciate your position or not position of just not being able to just go for it. So where are you now? Like, where's the journey taking you?
So this is crazy. I actually, after a 5-year dry spell, had coitus last week.
And you heard it here first.
Wait, is this an exclusive?
I did another podcast interview where it was kind of revealed, but yeah.
You had sex for the first time in 5 years. That's
5
shocking.
years?
Last week.
Yeah, in 5 years.
Wow, that's why you look so good.
I know, I'm glowing, right? Like, apparently,
Well, was it good?
No, to be honest, I hadn't done it in 5 years. So no, it was like a little awkward, and I was a little in my head, feeling insecure about the whole thing. And the cool thing was my partner he hadn't had sex in a year, I ended up finding out. And he was like, I'm really in my head right now. And I was like, yeah, me too.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was really nice.
You guys
and then we
are adorably awkward together.
I know. It's like Juno. It's like you're watching Juno, like gourmet hot dogs and
Without the
totally
pregnancy.
hipster moment. But we've done it subsequently, and yeah, it ended up. Yeah, now it's really good.
Wow. So would we refer to this person as your significant other?
We're
No, the answer is no. Just say no.
I think we're like moving in that direction. Like it seems to be like we're kind of just like we're both spazoids. Like so, we're trying to like take it one date at a time. So it's like okay, if like the 8th date is good, like then we'll go on a 9th date. If the 9th date,
Right?
Because we're both coming from this like huge dry spell, and and I'm a Gemini. I don't do well with labeling, but we're moving in that direction.
So
Atta girl.
How does one who hasn't been with anyone in 5 years and one who hasn't been with anyone in 1 year find each other? Because fantasy football?
Yeah. I was listening to that, actually. Yeah, it was totally fantasy football. I went to the league. I had to leave my son at the basketball game. I'm just kidding. I don't have children.
It's all right.
For one of the chapters in my upcoming book, I had to go on 20 blind dates in 30 days. Oh. And he was one of the blind dates. He was like I think it was 7 or 8.
Uh-oh.
And, our first date was like the best date I'd been on in years. Like it was like the first date I'd been on in a long time where I was like, wow, I just don't want this to end. I'd been on like 7 blind dates before that, 6 blind dates before that. And I was like, okay, like we're getting coffee. Like how long do I have to stay here before it's like rude to leave?
How did you get that many blind dates?
I just asked my friends.
Wow. How are you in your 20s?
I just turned 30 a month ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Kim's she's going to be going to the Olive School of getting blind dates.
Kim, that's funny. Somebody else asked that. They're like, so how did this work exactly? What did you?
I've never really heard of someone being able to get 30 blind dates.
Yeah, but what if we
That's a lot.
Yeah, but what if we do like in September?
But don't none of this we.
There are 30 days in September. 30 days, half September, Kim. We could get you 30 blind dates.
Okay, Olive, I just have to, full disclosure, my father is sitting in the room here for today's episode. So my dad is getting all of these ideas in his head. And I know that he and Jackie are going to get together and have an intervention after. And it's just so.
It's the Fred and Jackie show.
Oh, my God.
It was so easy, actually. Like, I would like text friends. Most of them came from like acquaintances, surprisingly, because like your friend pool has already been kind of saturated with like you already know
STDs. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. STDs.
You're funny today.
So mostly my acquaintances, I would like harass them via text or on Facebook, and I was like, "Where's your submission?" And they were like, funny. "Oh, I might have somebody," and they would set it up, and they would give the person my number or give me their number, and it really was surprisingly pretty easy.
Wow! So he was number 7. You had like 13 more after that. Have you followed through with any of those?
So I went on.
It was 30. Fred is schooling me. I was thinking 20.
He wants to know where the leftovers are so I can get them. So my dad's keeping track over here.
No, but I love that he's like writing down. He's doing the math for me while I'm like,
I know. My math skills are terrible, so I would have been like, yeah, it was like 5. I went on 2 or 3 blind dates after that, and I just couldn't be present. So I think it was like the 3rd blind date I went on after that. I thought of something funny, and I was like, let's call him Raul. We'll make it sexy. He's not Latino. I don't know why I chose that name. But like I was thinking of something funny, and I was talking to my blind date, and I was like, oh, Raul would have thought this was so funny. And I'm like, you gotta stop going on these dates. Like, there's no point in doing it just for the story. Like, you're not present. You're thinking about somebody else. Like, you're hoping they don't kiss you. Like, you're praying they don't kiss you. You're coming up with a strategy to block your mouth with your phone in case they go in for it. Like, if that's where your mind is, like, now that's not being very kind to these other people who have like taken an evening to like spend with you.
Right.
So yeah, I canceled the rest, and we'll see kind of how it goes.
Did you tell Raul how you were feeling on the other blind dates?
We kind of hinted at. He said something the other day.
Let's call him right now. Let's call him. Let's tell him.
Oh my God, I think he would freak out. I can text him and see if he wants to be on. You want me to text him?
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, okay. I'm like, that would be an interesting twist. Like, that could be a deal breaker, right? Like, hey, you want to be on a show?
You're like, I know we really like each other, but so how do you see like this next book that you're working on now, The Quest for Coitus? So do you think that this will end possibly in true love and everyone will live happily ever after? Like, what are your goals for this one?
I conquered coitus. That's
oh my God,
third.
That's a good title.
I'm working on it. Yeah, I got them all.
It might become the Coitus Chronicles. We conquered coitus. That's it.
Coitus 2, Electric Boogaloo. That could be your next one. No,
that didn't work.
All right. That is good.
So what are you looking to get out of this one?
You know, the crazy thing was, and I said this when people were setting me up on blind dates, like there was no goal. It was never like, my objective is to, have this amount of sexy time. There was no goal, and there still is no goal. The objective, if there has to be one, if you're in a dry spell for 5 years, something isn't working. Like, something you're doing is not contributing to your life. And I wanted to be with somebody, and I needed to do things differently. So the whole objective has kind of been like, okay, just challenge yourself to have these kind of sexy adventures in dating and also in sex, to just push yourself to be a little different. And that's still kind of the objective. So it's not like, oh, it has to end with a ring. Oh, it has to end with a relationship. It has to end with like boning every day. It just has to end with, you can say boning, right?
Yeah. You're good.
It just has to, I'm just trying to challenge myself. So that's really kind of it.
How does your family respond to you writing books about your sexual prowess or lack thereof? Like, what do they feel about it?
I freak out about it all the time. Like, all the time. I block them on social media sometimes when I post things. Like, I told my mom and dad they couldn't be friends with me on social media. Because I'm like, what you don't know won't hurt you. They pretend to be really cool about it. I think they are really cool about it. But I still freak out all the time. Like, the other day I was writing an article and I used the word orgasm, and I was like, please don't let my father read this. Like, how can I hide this discreetly from him on the internet so he will never know it exists?
Well, my father's listening to you talk about orgasm, so there you go.
I know, but it's totally fine because it's your father. Like, I don't care. Your father. My father. They pretend to be cool about it, and then, like, they know it's happening. They know, we just don't. They try to ask about details sometimes, and I'm like, I feel weird. Like, stop asking me.
Yeah. Don't ask any
Just read my blog and read my book. Just don't talk. Just don't speak to me about it. Yeah.
I told my mom, I was like, I'd really appreciate it if you didn't read my book. Like, that would be so nice. And she was like really offended. She was like, then everyone will know, and they'll be like, no, I'm reading it. Like, deal with it. That's the reality.
Your mom wants some tips.
No, she's like way crazier than I am. Are you kidding me? She was doing like all sorts of crazy. She told me once she had like a sign in her dorm room that was like for a good time, call, and her number.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, why are you telling me that? Like,
she's giving you tips.
If she said 867-5309, she's kidding.
No, I think she was like, and then he saw me and he saw I was short and he was disappointed. And I was like, oh, you were a real person. I don't want to talk about that.
That's hilarious.
According to Jackie, everybody's the same height laying down.
I've never said that.
Yes, you have. Oh my God, yes, you have. Your husband is gigantic, and we've totally had this conversation because I have a thing about height. The people I date.
This is what happens when we have wine, and then later she quotes me, and I don't have wine, and I'm like, I have no idea.
But wait, what's your thing about height?
I like tall people, and so I like tall. I don't like anyone to be the same height as me or to have bigger boobs than me. Those are pretty much kind of my criteria.
Honey, everybody has bigger boobs than you.
I know.
Basically, you hate me.
Are you? I can't see you. I'm on the other side of the computer.
But you mean somebody that you'd be with?
What do you mean?
Like,
no, yeah, men. Like I don't have like in general.
You can be as tall or as.
The problem for the men? You mean if the men have?
I don't. I'm sort of joking. Like I don't like the big bodybuilder types when their boobs and their pecs are gigantic. I don't like that.
Gotcha.
I don't really like men that show up on my dates without shirts on. That's happened before.
What?
Yeah, with a lamb's wool vest. Date? It was a blind date. The one blind date I've had, he showed up in a lamb's wool vest with a big gold medallion, and he was shorter than me. And then he kept flexing his arm to tell me what time it was.
What's his name? The situation? Like what?
I don't remember, but he was kind of balding, and it was so bad. And then I comment on the fact that how does he not show up with a shirt? Like it was gross. It was hair. It was a whole thing. And so the people that set me up with the blind date said something to him. And so then he sent me a message saying that he apologized for not wearing a shirt, that he'd just come from the gym. And that was bad. It was all bad. It was a lamb's wool vest.
Vest to the gym?
I don't know. It was it was disgusting. But the what time is it? And he kept flexing his muscles so he could tell me.
Why was he wearing what?
I don't know.
That poor lamb.
I don't know.
By the way, no lambs were injured today in the making of this episode. But
anyway, it's not about me.
I know.
Immediately the deal breaker. Like, can't you just see? Like, you just see someone walk out of their car wearing that, and you're just like, nope.
No, I was walking up from my date, going, "Please don't be him. Please don't be him. Please don't be him." And then he got up. He's like, "Kim." I'm like, "Oh."
You're like, "Nope, not me."
I should have, but I didn't. It wasn't that quick, and I'm not that mean. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not.
Just to talk about him on the radio publicly.
I don't even remember his name. I just remember the medallion. It was.
That's if you show up in a lamb's wool vest on a first date, you deserve to be talked about on the radio. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Game on. But you know what? One thing, I mean, we could sit here and joke about like whether you're having sex or not having sex or this and that. But what I love about your first book and this, you know, moving into the second book is that it's a lot of self-discovery. And so this isn't all about, you know, we may start a project for one reason, but then we learn more and more about ourselves. And that's such a great thing, you know? And
yeah, definitely. You know, it really is. I hate the word journey because it sounds so like I'm on a journey for coitus, you know. But that's really what it is. I've done so many. I went to like a BDSM class, and I'm sorry,
what?
I know your dad's in the room.
Yeah. What? A BDSM? An S&M class?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
got
it's
it.
BDSM. And it just challenged me in so many ways. It challenged like just the way I thought about life in general. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but
no, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah. So
there's your Groupon for that.
Well, this whole thing has not just been about like getting laid or having sex. It's really about challenging some of my preconceived notions about sex, and sex also translates to life in some ways, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
absolutely. So, but it's awesome. All right. You're getting all muffly, but we are just so appreciative that you came on the show, and that people can buy your book if they go to broadscast.com. We've got it up there so they can head on over.
Oh, awesome.
And
Thank you.
When's your next book come out?
It's not going to be out for another year, so I'm right in the throes of writing this. You guys are getting the sneak peek at.
Ooh,
awesome!
You get a chapter. I want
to.
Kim wants a chapter.
No.
I'll send you a chapter. Sure, I'd be happy to.
So people can find you at olivepersimmon.com as well to
That's correct.
Follow you on social media and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Thanks, Olive. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
Veronica.
Olive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll start calling you Veronica. So.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, she's adorable. Seriously, and I love the fact that like we almost had an exclusive here. You know?
About that she had sex just for the first time last week?
Right? How
Wow.
crazy is that? So now we're moving on to balls, as you like to
Basking
say.
in her glory. What?
I said we're moving on to balls, as you like to say. And we're going to be talking to Kenny.
Kenny Zuckerman.
Yeah,
From Priority Sports. He's
a big time sports agent.
So do we have to do like Jerry Maguire references and stuff like that?
I feel like that would be like
Priority Sports. How may I help you?
Hi, we are on the
We're live on there.
This
We're
is
looking
Broadcast, looking for Kenny.
Oh, hang on one second, please.
Thanks.
Oh, maybe we'll get some groovy hold music.
So,
no, if there's no music.
No, but hi, Kenny.
Hi.
Welcome to Broadscast. You're live. We're already connected to you.
Okay. Cool.
Hi, it's Kim and Jackie from Broadscast. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Doing great. So, thanks for taking the time.
Where do you guys base? Where do you guys? Well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So we're live on the radio right now. We do a radio show and podcast, and we're talking broad stuff, but we always like to have really smart men come on and educate us women. So today we wanted to talk a little bit of football with you and a little bit of sports and Rams coming back to LA and sports agency stuff. Is that good? And we want to talk about your nonprofit. Great.
Yeah.
All those things good? Because we're live, so you have to say yes.
Okay. All right.
There's no pressure
Hello,
there.
Everyone.
Exactly.
Thanks for having me on.
Sure. So, Kenny, you've been doing this for a very long time. Like, how has the NFL changed, do you think, like, since you started working with some of these players to now? Like,
yeah, that's a great question because there's so many different aspects of how the game has changed from the safety perspective to the fans' perspective. But I think the biggest change that I've noticed is that the game has become so much more popular in the United States and around the world, really because of fantasy football. And I think that game in itself brought so many new fans in different demographic. I mean, a lot of young kids and a lot of women, especially. I mean, if you go to a lot of these sports bars on Sundays, 10, 15 years ago, I would say it was 90% men, and the other, 5 to 10% women were there to meet the men. And now it's probably closer to 60-40. And I think the women that are there, a lot of them are married. They're they're there to watch football and to watch their fantasy players that they've drafted on their teams to see how they do. So it's the fanship has just grown dramatically, and that's why you see the game just becoming so much more popular around the world.
Well, Kenny, you should know that you're talking to a 2-time fantasy football winner right here. That's me, wow. Kim. Yeah, back to back. But I have to tell you that when I watch the game, I'm very focused on my game, and I'm not paying attention to any of the men in the room. Like, it's weird. Like, I find myself very competitive, and it really has done exactly what you said, educated me about football. And my best friend and I take these trips every year, and we become a fan of the city, and fantasy football has really helped sort of, broaden my horizons. And, born and raised in Chicago, I was not really raised a Bears fan, but now I get to be fans of all different players and all different teams. And it's been, that's been part of the fun.
And also with the growth in the different internet sites and the blogs and so forth, people can be, a lot more educated on their team, even if they're not living in that city. Where 15 years ago, to get that information, you really had to have the newspaper that was delivered to you. Now you go online and you can read about your team. You can subscribe. You can get email blasts. You can get text blasts. So you become a real student, the game of your particular team, which, makes you feel comfortable to, talk about the game next to the water cooler or wherever it might be.
Right. I mean, even on Facebook, I grew up in New England and I live in LA, and on Facebook, it'll say the Patriots are playing so-and-so. Do you want to post about it? And Facebook knows, it's like, it used to be that you got nothing. If you didn't have the sports package, there was no information.
Yeah, times have changed, definitely. And I think it's definitely for the best. I mean, so that's the one aspect of the game's change. And then, on the field, you see, obviously the concussion issues and the CTE and so forth. So they're trying to make the game safer, trying to take the head out of the tackle. And this all trickles down even to youth football. So, everything's changed a lot. I mean, the biggest change probably in football has happened over the last 10 to 15 years.
Well, I want to ask you something about the Rams, but you just alluded to something with youth sports and youth football. So I live in an area. My son plays basketball. I will be hiring you to be his agent when he enters the NBA. But the kids are all starting at such a young age, and we were talking off air that there's such competition, and if kids aren't starting in travel teams and have private trainers at such a young age, they can't make it in sports. Do you really think that kids should be playing this hard, this competitive at such a young age, or they should gradually grow into it?
Well, I think, and I'm really on the front lines when it comes to this, because I started a youth tackle football organization about 4 years ago in West Los Angeles. And, we started off with 4 teams, and now we have 6 teams, and we start at age 6 for tackle football, and we go to age 14. So, I'm a huge believer to start as competitive as possible early, because I think these are the type of, especially youth football, this is what gets kids ready for the real world. The discipline, the knowledge that you have to have, the time that you have to put in. There's such an advantage to that. And you see the kids that, football players can be manufactured. There's so many different positions they could play, and there's a position for every kid. So you can manufacture a football player. If a kid doesn't have the skill set, like basketball, you have to be a natural athlete. You can't just play you can be tall, but you have to have a certain ability. To be a baseball player, to be a baseball pitcher, you have to have a certain skill set. Football is probably the only sport that you can actually go on and play in college at a Division III level that you just have to have passion and heart and be able to work on your craft at your certain position. So it's a great sport to start early for self-esteem, for confidence, for overweight kids that can actually be special in something, for kids who have maybe a learning difference or a disability that they could be, so you see so many different kinds of kids playing for different reasons, but it's such a unique and special sport. And I started my kid off in tackle football at 6 years old, and now he's going into a 6-year tackle football, and he's very small, but without starting early, he wouldn't have the understanding of the game and the ability to manipulate his body and do the things he can do without the experience. If he just started at this age, that small, he probably would last a year and then be out.
That's a good point as far as learning the game and having that advantage, because kids who are starting at 12, I see that just with local sports here. And my 3 kids, like if you don't start at a certain age and you're learning the game at 12, any sport, it's very awkward because all these kids have been doing it for years. So, that's at best. So, but tackling at 6 years old, do you find that you have a lot of resistance from parents for that?
No, not at all. The kids that play, there's very little impact at the young ages. So there's really not much to worry about. And, with USA football and so forth and so on, the head's out of the tackle. We only practice 2 days a week during the regular season. We have very little hitting drills. We do mostly hitting on Tuesday and once a week, and then they hit in the game, obviously. So we don't even have back-to-back practices where you have back-to-back tackling. There's never even back-to-back tackling, even including in a game. But like I said, the impact's very minimal at the younger ages, but they're really learning the game. It's fundamental and technique. And like you said, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the kids that start later, they're definitely at a disadvantage. And I think a lot of pros say, well, I started at 10th grade. I started at 9th grade. Well, they're pros, so they had a unique skill set that allowed them to be able to be successful starting at a late age. But that's the 1%ers, and maybe less than that. That's the completely the minority. So what's great about football is, like I said, Division III, whether you're in the league in we're in LA, so there's one Division III league. It's Pomona Pitzer, it's Claremont Mudd, it's Redlands, Whittier, Laverne, Chapman, Cal Lutheran. So you can play for those schools. They do not cut players. So any kid who wants to be on the team can be on the team. That's the only sport in the country that allows that.
I guess I should tell my son to switch sports.
Well,
he's a short, white Jewish kid who has plans for the NBA.
Yeah, listen, it's a better chance in football. That's why my kid does it.
Yeah.
So what about girls? Do you allow any girls in your organization?
Oh, yeah. The best running back actually in our division in the conference is a girl. And she plays running back and linebacker for the Santa Clarita Wildcats.
Oh,
and she's one of the top running backs in the league and probably averaged 2 or 3 touchdowns a game.
It's funny.
Do you find that boys play differently against her? I know that when girls show up on the court, when in my son's league, that the boys tend to back off of defending her because they were told not to touch girls, and they have a really hard time translating, pushing, and using their body. And I appreciate that, but I'm like, she's on the court. You got to treat her like everybody else. But how do you bridge that gap for kids?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, I think certain kids just tackle anyone the same way, but then I think there's certain boys that, are unsure how to actually, jump on a girl without hurting her or, being reprimanded for it.
Right.
So,
right.
It's definitely unique, and that's the coach's job to let them know that once the girl steps between the white lines, she's just like any other player.
Well, it's interesting you say that because my daughter, she's 9 years old, and she played football for a bit. It was just flag football, but she's one of those. Like she wants to do everything, and she doesn't understand why girls would be separated in sports from anybody because she's tough. Right. She's tiny, but she's tough. But I noticed at 5-6 years old, and she would play, that it was actually not necessarily the other players. Sometimes it was them. They didn't want to throw her the ball, but it was the coaches. And they would assume
and the refs
that they would assume that she wasn't all that great, or like they didn't push her, and she's a born gifted athlete. I mean, that's just who she is. And it was just amazing to me that she would be constantly sitting on the sidelines, one boy and her constantly on the sidelines while all these other kids were playing. And
right.
So,
I mean, I think that, it really depends on the sport. It really depends on the, most boys at a younger age are a little stronger than girls. So I think that, and a lot of the girls that end up playing at a young age are a little more timid. I would say the ones like you're talking about, maybe your daughter or some of the other ones, that's more the minority. So I think more now the girls are accepted in youth sports a lot more, and especially in football. I mean, if a girl's out there and she's hitting, you could see that right from the get-go.
Right.
So, you want to, if that player's, better than a boy, you're going to put her in there regardless. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. If I had a girl on my team that was hitting and playing better than a boy, I mean, that girl's playing.
I'm sending her over, Kenny.
You have two potential clients. So as an agent, what do you look for in a player? Obviously, you want someone that can run and throw, but do you look for other character traits and other things that develop an athlete?
That's a great question. I mean, now at this point in my career, going into this thing for 28 years, I definitely look for character. Now there's so much more responsibility on a professional athlete, and the kids that were raised, by parents or parent or significant family member that were told they're always the best, they're this, they're that, they're this. They have a tough time, accepting direction and to be able to handle as a client. Right. So I look for guys that are really down to earth, that are humble, that realize it's a privilege to play professional football, and that they want a partner, they want a teammate. That a lot of people say, well, your agent works for you. Well, that's not the truth. I mean, your agent's your business partner. They handle the business off the field. You handle the business on the field. And if more players look at it as a business partner and understand that these people are out there thinking about them all the time. I know the players always don't think about their agent all the time, but as an agent, I'm constantly thinking about my players, how they're feeling, if they're hurt, if they didn't make the team, how they would feel. I mean, you have to have some sort of sense of empathy and sympathy to be a good agent. And the ones that don't are the guys that players should shy away from, because basically if that kid, doesn't make it or has something negative to happen to them, they just go on to the next guy. So, I think kids and families are sometimes looking for the wrong things. You obviously want to get what you need resource-wise to be successful, but you also want to find someone who's got a soft spot in their heart, that they're not just looking at the player as a number, and they're looking at them more like a relationship and a partnership.
Do you think that like shows like Ballers or Hard Knocks or some of these shows that highlight supposedly what's going on behind the scenes helps or hurts your industry?
Well, that's another good question.
I'm on a roll, Kenny. Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder you're there doing this. But, to be honest with you, I've not watched Ballers. I watched a little of one episode. I have not watched Hard Knocks this year. But I'll tell you that the draft definitely didn't sit well with me. Obviously I watched the draft because, that's my business. But, when you have kids coming out, wearing, cut off shirts and, the announcers are telling them, hey, what are you buying your family? Or, where'd you get those shoes? And is that Gucci or that Prada? And these are ex-players that, were all pro players, and they're sending mixed messages. You're telling kids after the draft, you're sending them to a symposium and telling them not to spend their money, and then on draft day, you're trying to see, you're saying it's okay to wear this crazy jewelry and to wear these crazy shoes and suits and all this sort of stuff. So all these younger families that are watching this think that that's okay, and that's the norm.
Right.
And when you see guys like Michael Irvin and all these guys, making light of that, it's okay, hey, what's the first thing you're going to buy? I mean, realistically, these kids can't afford it. Even if they're first-round picks, if they want to be able to secure some money and be able never to work again after playing football, they can't buy these things just yet.
Right.
They can't buy 2 houses and 5 cars and all this stuff. They just can't do it. I mean, just because you make $10 million, over 5 years, you still have to live like you make $150,000 a year if you want that to live to age 90.
Right, because any given moment you could suffer an injury that your career's done.
Right.
Right.
And even the longest career only lasts so long. I mean, like the average career.
How many? Right. Exactly. I mean, so when I see that stuff, it just makes my skin crawl, and it's just really upsetting. Well, and I think that you go on.
No, it's just, I grew up in Chicago in the Michael Jordan era, and I remember thinking how classy all the players looked, and they would always come in suits, and there always seemed to be like an air of like class, And now when my son watches, it's all like hoopty and like the everybody's tatted up. There's just, that's just in basketball, but I want my son to remember that there's an element of professionalism that should be attached to professional sports that I think sometimes gets lost in this generation.
Yeah, I think, with Instagram and Facebook and all that type of stuff that, everyone's promoting their gear and what they have. And, I really look at that as an advantage to my kid, because if you raise a kid and you teach them what's important and you keep them humble and so forth, they're going to have an advantage, because the kids and the families that believe that it's all amazing and you go to the draft and you just treat it like a king and that's how it is when you get to the league, they have another thing coming, because it's not like that. And, we were just pitching to our young kids that it's really interesting in football. The most talented kids at the younger ages seem to not make it. Oh. And the kids that are less talented but more harder workers and more passionate, they end up making it.
Well, my son's coach always tells him he doesn't like kids that pout. He goes, I don't care if you make your basket or not, but don't stop trying and don't pout. Like, don't walk on the court. Like, and so he starts those kids, and even the kids that are the highest scorers sometimes sit on the bench, because he really is trying to develop character and how to be a good sportsman. And
Good. So we only
that starts at home though. So it's coach can only do so much. It needs to be somewhat organic and taught at the household.
Right. Absolutely reinforced. So we only have about a minute left, but the Rams coming to LA, this is huge. How do you think how do you think this will change the NFL, the city of Los Angeles? Like what give us the headlines. What's exciting
realistically to have a team in a major market like LA is great. But LA is a very fickle town. We have a lot of transplants here. So people come from Chicago, people come from New England, people come from Miami, and they follow their team. We probably have the most diverse group of people living here from other places, so they follow their own team. For the Rams to be successful, they have to win games, and they have to be in a gorgeous stadium. So the stadium will come in 3-4 years, and right now for the fans to really accept this team, they have to win football games. Else people are going to stick with the teams that they've been following. And a lot of those teams, like you said, like New England, there's a lot of fanfare there. You grew up watched since you've been a baby, in diapers. You're watching your team because your dad watched that team, and so forth. So for this team to be successful, they got to win. And if they don't win quickly, or you're not going to see anyone in that stadium probably for till the new stadium's built, and then they'll come into that new stadium because they want to be in that great venue, and then they got to win there. So it's a very fickle town, and wins will determine the success of the franchise. Where you can go to other cities like Green Bay, even if they lost, they'd be full every day.
Right. And it could be 30 below, and they're still there.
Yeah, it does not matter.
Yeah. Well, Kenny Zuckerman, thank you so much for joining us.
Priority Sports. Thank you so much, Kenny. We appreciate you taking time out of your morning.
You're welcome anytime. Take care.
Take care. So I feel like he didn't realize what was happening. That was funny.
That's the best part
he
of
was
live
quizzing
radio.
us like, so what do you ladies want to talk about?
What's up?
That's funny.
How you doing? No, but that was, I love the fact that this show, broadcast, yes. People think, oh, you talk about women's stuff like makeup and shoes and da-da-da. And like, sure, we like those things, but broads like a lot of things.
Broads like bros.
Broads like bros. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for this week.
That was fast.
Yeah, right? We'll be back Monday live. So tune in and find us on Facebook, Twitter, all of it. And we'll see you next time.
Adios.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. Two broads with faces made for radio.